How are
Hello.
you? Hello.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
Hola. Ah, Pensé que había pasado algo porque estaba todo en silencio. ¿Se escucha?
Hi. Hello. Yes.
Hi.
I was just waiting for somebody else to join in and then we can start. We will finish with some points about sonnets and then we will start with 1984. If you have the guidelines handy, we will follow the points there. So it will be easier because there are many things to say about the novel, right? I told you last class that for the final exam and for the colloquial, we will take only two sonnets, right? Whose lips to hand and my mistress' eyes. Only those two. In last class, we discussed the structure of the sonnet. We've said that in the Renaissance period, the sonnet was an Italian form um, composed by Petrarch, an Italian poet, and the structure of the Italian poem was, of course, 14 lines, but the division as regards content and development of the subject matter was in connection to an octave and a sestet. Hmm? So in that octave, you have the presentation of the topic, some development, and then further development and conclusion in the sestet. These Italian sonnets were all about love, right? And Petrarch also had what is called a sonnet sequence that was very common in other writers as well. What does it mean to have a sonnet sequence? It's a succession of sonnets about, in most of the cases, addressed to a lady. In the case of Petrarch, he wrote it for Laura, right? So if you consider this succession or sequence of sonnets, you end up having some kind of narrative poem, right? A narrative story about this love to Laura. Mm? Uh, we don't have a sonnet sequence in Wyatt, right? Wyatt was the poet that traveled because he was a diplomat, and he introduced the sonnet as a genre in Britain, right? At the beginning, he followed this octave and a sestet, but then he started experimenting and everything developed into what you call today the Shakespearean sonnet. And the division of the Shakespearean sonnet would be 3 quatrains and a couplet, right? As regards Wyatt, we have discussed last class that sonnet that was in fact a sustained metaphor because it was connected with hunting and the king, but this hunting was compared, or a metaphorical, let's say, um, allusion to Anne Boleyn and the wooing of a lady, right? Trying to conquer her love. And we have in this Wyatt sonnet the introduction of the final couplet that was not present in the Italian sonnet. Something, well, we have discussed the rhyming pattern. Remember ABBA, ABBA, CD, DC, EE. Some of the things to consider. In the first 2 lines, we have a comma in the middle of the line. What is this?
Caesura.
Caesura. So some elements of the old tradition were used in the Renaissance period to create rhythm, musicality, right? Of course, everything was marked by punctuation. So we have rhyme, we have caesura. What was the foot and the meter for the English sonnet? Remember what was that? The foot and the meter.
The foot is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G, and the meter is iambic pentametry.
Wait a second. A, B, all those letters is the rhyming pattern.
Oh, yes.
Okay? So iambic is the foot and pentameter is the meter. So what is foot? Is the combination of stressed and unstressed syllables. It can be iambic, it can be trochee, right? What is the meter? The number of stresses in a line. As we are talking about English, we don't say syllables, we say number of stresses. So we have 5 stresses, that's why it's pentameter. Is that clear? Clear? Okay, good. Some of the things that we can spot in this first sonnet is assonance. If you read the third line, the vain travail, assonance will be rhyme, but in the middle of the line, right? Not counting the ending of each line, but this is just to create musicality. So we have rhyming in the middle of the line, like for example, vain travail. We can also find alliteration, okay? It's not an alliterative verse, so we have just 1 or 2 examples of alliteration. We can find this on the 6th line, fleeth afore, right? It's the repetition of the consonantal sound in a stressed position. And something else to add. In every poem, you have end stopped lines. For example, when the content, the idea, ends in one line. For example, the first, whose list to hand I know where is an ind, the idea ends there. It can be with a comma, a full stop, but you get what I'm saying. You don't need to go on reading to finish the sentence. So, whose list to hand I know where is an ind is an end stopped line. But for example, that line that starts, yet may I by no means my wearied mind draw from the deer, I need to go on reading to finish the sentence. Wearied mind, yes, Ines, that would be a run-on line because I need to keep on reading and go to the next line to finish the idea or the sentence. So here we have a combination, here and in every poem, of end-stopped lines and run-on lines. Is this clear? So we can place Wyatt in early Renaissance. He introduced the sonnet. But then when we talk about Shakespeare, we need to talk about late Renaissance, right? Shakespeare was innovative in every sense, in theater, right? Also in poems, in sonnets. Why? Because sonnets were more, or all of them connected with love. But he introduced other subject matters like death, friendship, of course, love, the passing of time, decay,
Beauty.
beauty, right? In a different sense, now we are going to see. So he introduced other subject matters for the sonnets, right? And he also has sonnet sequence addressed to, he doesn't introduce, or he didn't introduce a name, but we call it the Dark Lady. Why was she dark? It's not because she was black, right? She was called dark, the Dark Lady, because it, for a lady at that time, to have a dark complexion meant that she was not a lady of the court. That was a lady, a common woman, walking, let's say, in open air, maybe working the field, right? Remember that at that time to have a very white skin was something very valuable. That's why when they went out, they would wear umbrellas, right? So in this poem, my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. We have, let's say, the breaking of all the stereotypes. If we cast a postmodern reading, we can say that he was deconstructive about the description of a woman. He is saying, my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips are red. So do not compare her with the sun, with the coral, right? If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun? So her breasts are of brownish color. That's why we have the dark lady here, a brownish complexion. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. So he is talking about this woman's breath, and it's a common breath. It's not like perfume, it's not el godis, right? That's why then he says, I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music has a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. That is to say, she's real. She walks the ground. She's not a goddess, right? She's a real woman, a common woman, right? With dark complexion, with not shiny hair, right? Her breath is not out of this world. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. What is he saying in this? Remember that the last couplet is the conclusion of the sonnet. What has he done throughout the sonnet? That is unusual, of course.
Describes the lady.
He describes the lady. He uses comparison with the roses, with the sun, right? Common comparisons, metaphors. But he's saying her cheeks are no roses, her hair are wires, her breath reeks, right? So he is breaking all the stereotypes. in the convention of describing a lady in a sonnet. So let's not talk about the ideal woman. That ideal woman does not exist. Maybe it's a goddess, it's a product of literature, a product of imagination, right? So he's saying, and yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare. He's saying, I love her still, although she's not perfect. That's why my love is rare. Is so rare or weird as all the false comparisons that are used to talk about a woman. Are you following me? As any she belies with false compare. So in the conclusion, he's saying, I still love her. She's a real woman. I love her hair as it is, her breath as it is, her skin as it is. So think that this poem, sonnet, was written in the Renaissance period. So how innovative, how ahead of his time he was, right? So if we have to talk about structure, this is the typical English Shakespearean sonnet. Why? Can we draw the rhyming pattern? A, do you understand my question? A, B, A, B, right. So A, B, A, B, and then we have a full stop. So we have one quatrain there. Then we have CD, CD, another quatrain. EF, EF, another quatrain. So the rhyming pattern are different, so it is easy to divide the quatrains, right? And then we have GG, the final couplet. With the conclusion. She is human, she's not a goddess, I still love her. So that would be rhyming pattern, 3 quatrains, and a couplet, Shakespearean or English sonnet. Look at the first line. Let's talk about foot and meter now. The stress would be in me, ¿no? My me. Entonces tengo one that is unstressed, followed by another one that is stressed. My me. See? So that is iambic. ¿Me siguen? So my me stress eyes are nothing like the sun. Entonces, ¿dónde irían los stresses? Me, I, na, like, sun. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. That would be the musicality.
Yes. Is I'm stressed, stressed, I'm stressed, stressed. I am break.
Perfect. And we have 5 stresses, so it is iambic pentameter. Anything to add? We have some instances of caesura in the third and fourth line, and one in the final couplet, right? Do we have end stop lines? Give me an example of an end stopped line.
Yes. The fourth line. If hairs be weird, black wires grow on the head.
Perfect. Hmm? There you have a full stop, but for example, in the first one, you also have an end stop line. You can have a full stop, a semicolon, a comma. Mm? And what about a run-on line?
In the when it said, and in some perfumes is there more delight, and then it goes on than in the breath that for my mistress reeks.
Right, exactly. So is there more delight than in the breath? Perfect. Very good. So with this, we end the unit about poetry, right? We have discussed Annabel Lee, we have discussed Old English poetry with Beowulf and the Battle of Maldon. We have discussed in the Middle Ages the Canterbury Tales, the Wife of Bath, and in the Renaissance, the sonnet. Okay? So our next unit is the novel. This year we are going to discuss or read a dystopian novel. There are many kinds of novels. Remember that a group talked about novel of adventure, historical novel, right? Novel of incident, novel of character. In this one, 1984, we can say that the genre is
Dystopian novel.
a dystopian novel. And in the subgenres, we can say it's a novel of character, because we have all seen from the eyes of a protagonist that is Winston. As it is a dystopia, but also it's connected with a social organization, especially a criticism to what was the totalitarian governments. We can also say that in the genre, there is a social criticism, right? So it's a dystopian novel, a novel of character, and it's a social criticism. Why can we say this is a dystopia?
since it is creating an imaginary world in order to provoke a sort of criticism to this totalitarian society, and it's everything is bad, everything is darkness.
Very good. So first of all, is set in a future. It can be a near future, as in this case, right? Imaginary worlds, most of dystopias are set in imaginary worlds, but this one in particular has something of imaginary because it's about the future, but the setting is quite concrete on purpose from the point of view of the author, right? So let's talk about the setting. We know that the year is 1984, of course, because of the title. What about the place?
London. Well,
Okay,
yes, something like that. Let's say it's not like London, but it's the actual London. Let's.
yes, it's called Airstrip 1, right? But we know it is London because it is mentioned. Hmm? Or Airstrip 1 would be England, see, and Winston lives in London. It is interesting how George Orwell has divided the world. Mm. Although it is imaginary, he mentions certain areas. Do you remember? Although we know this is 1984, the real setting, because of the descriptions, is after the Second World War, right? Because London is destroyed from the bombings, right? So we can recognize a definite period. How was the world divided after the Second World War, during the Cold War?
Capitalism and socialism.
Okay, capitalism, social, be careful with socialism because the word
Yes,
socialism was used by the Nazis and by the
yes.
communists, right? So, would be capitalism versus communism, right? Remember something called uh, Winston Churchill called it the Iron Curtain, la cortina de
Yeah,
hierro.
the Soviet Union,
Right. It was the Soviet Union and what else?
Germany. No,
No, no. Remember that we have satellite countries that were part of this um, communist government. Yugoslavia was one, for example. So Winston Churchill made this metaphor by saying that you could draw a line in Europe to separate communist countries from Western Europe. That would be the Iron Curtain, right? So this is something Orwell wanted to do with the names in this novel. So we have three main divisions. Oceania. In this division, you would place USA, Australia, the UK, and the Allies, y los aliados, ¿sí? So, Winston would live in Airstrip 1 and would be part of Oceania as, let's say, not a continent, but a political division. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that could be capitalism.
Yeah, I think it was to draw a line between liberty and the oppression of the Soviet regime, right? Like
Yes.
this of
Which line you mean?
uh,
In
the
the novel or in real life?
no, in real life,
Ah,
the
right.
Winston Churchill.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So this Oceania is in constant war, no? And the war changes, sometimes with Eurasia, sometimes with East Asia. They are sort of confused. The thing is that war would be the status quo. They are always at war.
Yes, and this idea of confusion between the different names that they gave from the world is part of this manipulation of thoughts and political oppression toward the community.
Exactly. Then you have in some part of the novel where Goldstein's philosophy and ideas are presented, which is quite curious because Goldstein would be a Jewish name, right? He explains that this constant state of war is the way the economy works, right? And of course, Ludmila, this is also connected with controlling the people through fear, through hunger, through the creation of an enemy. It's not our fault, it's the enemy's fault that we are suffering hunger, right? That we have to reduce the rations. So it's the enemy's fault all the time. And at the same time, this manufacturing of guns and armaments would stabilize the economy. This is what Hitler did, what Stalin did, right? And what USA has done throughout history, right? The thing is that USA creates wars somewhere else, not in his country, but it's in constant manufacturing, and that's how the economy works. Is this clear? This
Yes.
is how Goldstein explains the constant state of war in the world. There's always a war somewhere.
Yeah.
So some country is selling supplies, armaments to other areas. Yes, Gonzalo.
No, no, nothing.
Ah, okay. So we have mentioned Oceania with America, UK, the Allies, right? Australia. Then we have East Asia. There we have China and some satellite countries, and Eurasia, that would be the Soviet Union. So there are three main divisions, right? Think of today. Isn't the world divided in the same way? So nothing has changed. So this will be the setting, right? Time and place. What about the historical background of the novel? We've said that although it is 1984, we can clearly place this London in the aftermath of the Second World War, because London is destroyed, there is hunger, right? We also have the allusion to dictators. Who is the dictator in this novel?
The party.
Yes, the party in the figure of
The Big
Big
Brother.
Brother.
Big Brother. Right. How is this Big Brother described physically? I mean,
He has a mustache. He has big eyes that are always watching.
right. And it's very charismatic.
Yes, and the image of this Big Brother was everywhere in big posters. So this also represents the power and the influence that this person has in that society.
Exactly. We have a leader, as for example, Hitler was a leader for their people, his people, at least at the beginning. The mustache is characteristic of Stalin. So in the figure of Big Brother, we have a blending of these two dictators. Hmm? What is the message here? George Orwell was worked for the BBC during the Second World War, and he also was some of an idealistic man, and he traveled to Spain to fight for the Republicans. The Republicans, anarchists, right, would fight against the nationalists in Spain. Nationalists in the figure of Franco, right? But that's why he was, let's say, sort of criticized when he went back to England as he fought for the Republicans, that he liked the left wing ideology. See? Although some others, because then he saw that the anarchists and the Republicans were sort of uh, ideologically corrupted, both sides. So he started talking against the Republicans. So he was also criticized by being of the right wing, you see. That's why he blended these two leaders, Hitler of the right wing and Stalin of the left wing, by saying they are extreme ideologies but their methods are exactly the same. And their objective, their aim is exactly the same, to control people, thought, to have power, right? To spy on the citizens.
Yes, that is to say that they have different ideology because one of them was from the right wing and the other one from the left one, but they use the same methods in order to put these ideas into practice or to put this idea in the minds of people.
Exactly, right? One uh, touch of irony is that if we consider Stalin and the communist government, we have, ideologically speaking, a classless society because class was abolished according to Lenin and Marx's ideas. However, this was never true in the Soviet Union, right? So, can we talk about different classes in this novel?
Yes, there was people who was controlled and people who wasn't.
That is interesting. Let's talk about the names of the classes first. See, we have the outer party, sorry, the inner party first. The inner party would be the highest class. Big Brother would be part of the inner party. O'Brien, this man that controls and ends up torturing Winston, is part of the inner party. In the book, you have the information that this inner party is only 2% of the population, which is something very interesting, right? Then we have the outer party. Winston belongs to the outer party because he works for a ministry. This outer party would be 19% of the population. Or let's take 18. So we have 18 plus 2, 20%. The 80% that is left are the proles, or the proletariat, who are very poor. And as Oriana says, they are not controlled, as Winston is. Can you tell me why?
Throughout the novel, there is a sort of discussion, not discussion, but a sort of implicance that this party should not be controlled because it was useless. Useless because this party is going to continue being the same without changing, uh, well, this.
Right. There is nothing to fear from the proles.
They have no power.
No power, not only that, no education. And as they are poor, remember that they are allowed to have sex freely, they are allowed to drink, something that Winston cannot do, or his party, right? And of course, they have a certain amount of social problems. So they are, how can I say it? They are just trying to survive. And when you are trying to survive, to eat every day, and you are weak because you don't eat much, you don't have time or you don't have the energy to start a revolution. And this question of having sex and drinking are just there. They are Argentinian. Well, it is said that this novel can be, uh, let's say, uh, compared to any political system that is controlling or making the people poorer in order to control them, right?
Yes, there is a great tension with this novel nowadays because of this. Indeed, in one of the parts of the novel, mention Argentina as a country which is sort of dependent or economically providing other ones, which are the more powerful ones. So recently there was a great controversy and a discussion in most of the social networking sites about this, that indeed they were thinking about how not prohibit but to put this novel with since another perspective.
Right. This novel has been censored every time, right? It was read throughout the years because it can be associated with any historical periods and any
Yes.
country, right? The point in the novel, I don't exactly remember who says this, but says, why cannot we see that the prose outnumbers the outer and the inner party? We are a lot, so it is easier to start a revolution, right? Because we outnumber them. But the word revolution does not cross their minds. Why not? For two reasons.
They are brainwashed.
Okay, first of all, if we talk about prose, they are not dangerous because they are sort of entertained with sex and alcohol on the one hand, and on the other hand, they are, let's say, um, too concerned about surviving. And another point is newspeak. What is that?
The language.
The language. We have English socialism, INSOC would be the language, right? But this language throughout the years has been limited many times. And there is a new version of a dictionary that, contrary to what we may expect, the dictionary does not come larger, but smaller. So this new speak is doing what?
Reducing the stream of thought.
Okay, reducing the words, the vocabulary. This is a philosophical stance because if we don't have words, we cannot think. I mean, is there any other possibility to think without words? No. So if we don't have the words, we don't have the thought. That's why the word revolution is out of the dictionary and is a prohibition. So the first year that the word is prohibited, you have the word in mind, but you know you cannot use it. But when the years go by, different generations are brought up without that word in the language. So the word is erased. You get what I'm saying? So I can associate this, what we are doing would be the other way around, to introduce words in the language, like diversity, inclusion, femicide, words that were not present before. Entonces, si no teníamos la palabra femicidio, tampoco teníamos la ideología, tampoco podíamos defender que era eso, era un crimen pasional o lo que sea, ¿no? So, to have words in the language is important because words are connected with thoughts. And also, something that is very interesting, what is Winston trying to do at the very beginning of the novel?
To write a diary.
So he found or he bought a diary in the black market, even a pen, because nobody was allowed to write. Was it easy for him to write?
No.
No,
Why not?
because he didn't know how to do it.
Okay, he had forgotten. He knew sometime because he has some kind of memories about the mother, remember, and his sister, right? It was not only that he didn't know how to write.
And Big Brother is Big Brother is always watching you.
Exactly. Fear is an element here. That's why he finds a corner in the room that he believes the eye of the big brother does not reach. But when he starts or wants to write, the main problem is that he doesn't have train of thought. Because when you reduce the language and when you don't activate sentences and subordination and connectors, you cannot come up with an idea. You just have isolated words. Is that clear? So the problem was that. And also, he does not have memory. His memory was blurred. Y les voy a decir algo que viene desde el uso del lenguaje en la civilización, cuando nosotros empezamos en la prehistoria a usar el lenguaje. Se dice que fue por una necesidad de trabajo y de intercambiar productos, ¿sí? Eso por un lado. Y por el otro lado, cuando el niño empieza a adquirir lenguaje, el niño empieza con palabras sueltas, ¿sí? Y dicen los psicólogos y los pedagogos que cuando el niño empieza a usar conectores, el primero que usa es el pero, sí, pero, es cuando ya empieza a poner condiciones a la mamá o al papá. Sí, bueno, está bien, pero vos me dijiste, ¿sí? Y después se empieza a incorporar los tiempos verbales. Solo cuando incorpora los 3 tiempos verbales puede tener una reflexión de su presente, de su pasado y poder cambiar el futuro. ¿Sí? Y es cuando el niño empieza a usar tiempos verbales y subordinadas. ¿Se entiende lo que quiere decir? So, if we, let's say, compare this with Winston, that is his problem. He does not have memory because he was brainwashed. So he does not or cannot think clearly about his past. He does not have train of thought because he does not have this training to write. So he knows his present is not something that he wants, but he cannot put that into words. And of course, if you don't have a past and a present, you cannot change the future.
Yes, and he's all the time trying to, he's all the time looking for people from the past in order to recover this past, because he needs of his past in order to know if his life was better before the revolution and if he was happier, all these feelings that struggle inside him.
Exactly. He wants to reconstruct this past, which is something also very contradictory because where does he work?
He works erasing the past.
He works in the Ministry of Truth. Look at the names, right? And his job is to erase and change the past. Something that Orwell was forced to do when he worked for the BBC. When news from defeat would come to England, he was told not to include that in the media. So in a way, he was omitting or erasing the past. And he was also in charge of erasing people from the memory of the history. Something Stalin did with Trotsky. Stalin erased the name of Trotsky of every document, and nobody could read anything about Trotsky, right? Or, of course, he was not erased because then he was reconstructed, or his life was reconstructed. So Winston erased some names and also invented others, invented heroes. That's why he's so confused, because he's so immersed with that job that it comes to a point that he does not know what is true, what is invented. Now, have you seen Don't Look Up, the film with Leo DiCaprio? For me, it's great. There is a meeting with Meryl Streep, that is the president, remember? And they are trying to explain to her what's going to happen, no? And she cannot remember their names because she does not care. Y le dice a DiCaprio, ¿vos cómo era tu apellido? Ogilvy. Pasa desapercibido eso si ustedes no tienen presente a 1984 y no lo han leído recientemente. But Ogilvy is a hero that Winston was forced to invent. The hero of the nation. See? So in this film, lo meten ahí como diciendo, no importa la historia, puede ser cualquiera, I don't care, a hero or not, right? Pero bueno, este es muy sutil, tiene que uno estar ahí leyendo 1984 todo el tiempo para acordarse de ese nombre que no es central, ¿no? Bien. So, what are the themes in this novel? Un título que pueden poner, themes, ¿no? The role of memory, the role of language, and newspeak. The role of the media,
The role of government.
the role of government, right? Manipulation,
Criticism.
criticism, spying on the people.
I
Yes,
would say freedom as well, or the lack of freedom
okay, of
in
course.
that sense.
Yes, I agree with that. Because in fact, what is it that Winston wants or pursues?
Freedom.
Freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of action, right?
Could be another theme, contradiction.
Yes. And this contradiction would be, or has a specific name here. Double think. See? The Ministry of Truth, War is Peace. Remember the slogans?
Yes.
Bueno, those are instances of doublethink. And it is defined in the novel to have two, yes, Milagros? No.
Then I had it, I highlighted it in the book, so I was like, oh, I know that one.
Okay, okay. Do you have it handy? Okay, can you read it?
Let me look for it.
Yes. And let's try to think if we have, or if we hold two contradictory ideas today, are we used to double think?
I found it. It says, wait, sorry, my sister was singing and I had to shut the. Le tuve que pedir que se calle, pobrecita. Um, it says, and if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Who controls the past from the party slogan controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. And yet the past, though of its nature alterable, never had been altered. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple. All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your memory. Reality control, they called it in Newspeak. Doublethink.
Bien, exactly. So we have this control of the past, of the future, and this double think. And that will be the final aim when they brainwash people to still hold those two contradictory terms, right? But they believe it's the right thing to think. See? I'm thinking about, for example, our idea of beauty. Sometimes, of course, we say, well, the important thing is not appearances are not important. Anyhow, we spend a lot of money in, I know, uh, hairdresser, fashion, right? So we hold two contradictory ideas
Yes, and
because we are contradictory as human beings. You
yes.
see?
And here, appearance is an important element because they change the appearance of people in order to change their mind. Because obviously you feel identified with your features, with how you are, and they wanted to change all this.
Exactly, right. Milagros?
Yes, I want to say something related to this appearance discourse that is something that is happening right now. Um, well, in the 2000s, there was this fashion of being really, really, really skinny, uh, and it kind of went away with all the Kardashian thing that they wanted to have a curvy body, but now uh, this tendency from the 2000s is coming back. People, the media are erasing all these bodies and saying again that they are wrong. For example, Kim Kardashian took off her implants and she's really, really, really skinny. It's terrifying, honestly. Well, I remember her as being a very thick person with very uh, big curves. So, no, tiro bajo. But honestly, it's terrifying how
Has
everything
never
is
helped.
changing. Yeah.
Exactly. And of course, I'm thinking about this idea of going back to nature and using natural chemicals or natural things, but at the same time, we buy, I don't know, it's impossible not to be contradictory. It's impossible, right? I'm thinking also about this idea of treating women differently, right? But at the same time, the songs that are in fashion or the style that is in fashion is connected with this. How do you call it? Ay, no me sale ahora. It's not rap.
Trap?
Eh, trap, like that, right? And some lyrics are not at all in connection with what is going on as regards the new ideology about the treatment of women. So we are holding two contradictory things because at the same time we dance or we hear those songs, right? And there is a market for that. That's the point. Somebody is accepting that because if not, they would not earn money, no? So this idea of double thing that is so obvious in the novel, and say, ah, no, pero es imposible que alguien piense esto, porque war is peace, obviamente. ¿Quién lo va a pensar? But then we need to start thinking about our own contradictions. And this slogan that war is peace is connected with this previous idea that this, to keep the status quo and to keep people calm, submissive, that is the idea of peace. So war, fear, control, hunger is peace because it keeps the status quo of the country. Right? Well, class. We are going to continue next Monday, ¿no? ¿Tenemos clase pues, el lunes que viene? Ok. El lunes vamos a terminar con, porque estuvimos haciendo medio un ping-pong, vamos a terminar con la guía. Y vamos a tratar de terminar con la novela la semana que viene, entre lunes y miércoles. Yo el lunes voy a llevar la grilla para que se anoten ya para los coloquios, ¿sí? Si no llegamos con los temas, vamos a lo mejor, los chicos que tienen que dar la clase, me falta la clase de Crime Fiction. ¿Hay alguien presente de Crime Fiction?
Me, Balacioni.
Me as
Bien,
well.
perfecto. ¿Puede ser para el miércoles? ¿O para cuándo lo habíamos dicho?
Para el lunes.
Para el lunes. Bueno, vamos a hacer una cosa, la damos el lunes. Por si todo después se desordena como siempre nos pasa, ¿sí? Así nos quedamos tranquilos que eso ya está dado.
Ok.
Bien, y si no llegamos con los temas, para el coloquio solo damos las características de crime fiction, pero no la obra, porque no vamos a tener tiempo. La obra la dejamos para el final, que es fácil de leer igual, pero bueno, si no tenemos, ¿sí? Bien. Sí, 1984, sí, las características generales de crime fiction, y la obra no. Y la obra la dejamos para los que rinden el final, ahí que ya tienen más tiempo de leer. Any questions?
Regarding sonnets, is only the one about White and Shakespeare? Those two?
Yes, the theory and those two sonnets.
Yeah. Okay. And the poems you told us before.
Yes, you have the Battle of Malton and Beowulf, the Canterbury Tales, especially with the Wife of Bath prologue and Wife of Bath tale, and these two sonnets.
Okay. And about the short stories, the ones that we presented in the first exam,
No, eso no,
are
ya
not
está.
included.
No, porque si no el coloquio va a durar 1 hora por cada. No.
Okay.
Esa parte les tomé. Lo que sí puedo llegar a preguntar es, por ejemplo, ¿qué elements de fairy tales vemos en The Wife of Bath? ¿Sí?
Okay.
Esas cosas, o sea, relacionar, pero no las short stories. Any other question? Okay. See you on Monday then.
See you.
Okay,
Thank you. Bye bye.
bye.
Thank you. Bye
Bye,
bye.
see you.
See you.